Well, hello, everyone. We already have people on from all over the world. This is our Youth Veterinarian Initiative, which we call YVI. And I'm on with my co-partner, Dr. Monique Wells out of Paris, France. Say hello, Monique.
Hello, hello, bonjour.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Ça va bien, ça va bien.
Bon.
And we have our very special guest on today for a part two, because she's so phenomenal and she has information to provide to us about horses. And today she's even going to talk to us about the history of horses and humans, which I can't wait to hear. Now, for those of you that did not get to see her part one, it is available on our website at philanthropyalliancefoundation.org, well, philanthropyalliance.org, and on Dr. Monique Wells' website, Wells International Foundation. Monique, is it the full name or is it just wellsinternational.org?
No, it's the full name, wellsinternationalfoundation.org.
And go and look for the Youth Veterinarian Initiative so that you can see all of the episodes, including the last one that we had with Dr. Maria Jose out of St. Kitts. And she talked to us about the Caribbean and the endangerment of corals and the other animals there in the Caribbean and the Caribbean. So you want to see that also. So now back to our special guest today. Oh my gosh, Lilly is not only a colleague and dear friend, but she is an expert when it comes to horses. And I saw that just last weekend because I took my grandkids there who had never been on horses. And she is a genius, she and her team. And my grandkids were so comfortable. Most of the time when it's the first time for someone and they get up on an animal of that size, there's a fear there, but she has a way. She is the horse whisperer, but she's also a farrier, which many of you may not know that is a horseshoer, and she's one of the few women in the United States. Of almost over 25,000 farriers, there's only about 3,000 women, and this lady is one of them. But she has a life and history in medieval and dressing in medieval and bringing back those times. And so anyway, Lilly Ice, I'm so glad that you're on. How are you?
Doing good today. How are you?
Good.
I hope everybody's doing well.
Good. Now, if someone is going to look for you though, instead of just we call you Lilly Ice, but you're Lilly Ice?
Leona Ice is my full. Yeah.
Say it one more time.
Lonnie Leona Ice. Everybody calls me
right.
Lilly, but name.
Yeah. And wait, I just got to say hello to my cousin that's down there with her little one. They're peeking in, Gail McClendon. Gail, thank you for being on. I think this is your first time joining us.
Second time.
Oh yeah, it sure is. We've got people beeping to get in. Lilly, tell us what you're covering today.
Today, I was going to talk about the impact that horses have human history and our shared history together. Horses have been one of the species that has affected our entire history the most, our economics, warfare, culture, art. The only animal, dogs and cats are the only two animals that could be said to have impacted us as much. They didn't do more. And it's really interesting because dogs and cats were domesticated somewhere between 25,000, somewhere around 25,000 years ago. Horses were only domesticated about 5,000 years ago. They are the last common domestic animal to have been domesticated. So it's amazing what kind of impact they've had in 5,000 years.
Wow. Well, now, am I digging too deep to even ask, how did that even come about? Do you even know that? And what were they first used for?
That's a really good question. We're getting into the edge of prehistory when we're talking about it. They were first used as hauling animals, as far as we can tell. The problem is that if they were used as riding animals, we would have no artifacts of that. I personally cannot imagine not riding them. Seeing that animal and going, what if I climb up there? But we know that ancient people had travois, two poles on either side of the horse with a platform stretched between them. And they could load their game they hunted or logs or whatever, and the horses would drag it. Horses are actually better built for pulling than they are for riding. So it's very likely that first used pulling.
Uh-oh, last video of you, Lily.
Okay,
There we
I'm
go.
back. Sorry, somebody tried to call me.
Okay.
So the evidence that we have shows that people first started using them for pulling loads, for running game, and actually the ox was first used for plowing. Horses are used for plowing and tilling, but oxen were used first to do that. So they already had the setup for the oxen to do it. It wasn't much of a stretch to get horses to do that. And we think that riding came later. That's not a for certain. It wasn't much later. Hey, I mean, humans, we're kind of stupid some days. I wonder if I can get up on that thing and what's going to happen. That's us. That's who we are. Let's find out. But we know that horses themselves evolved during the last ice age. Glaciers, by their existence, create these huge steppe plains, millions upon millions upon millions of tons of grass. And horses evolved into their modern form sometime in that period. They were hunted. They were hunted as game animals for a long time. We know they were. They were treated just like any other big herbivore wandering around the plains for a very long time. But as I said, oxen were domesticated first before horses, and then horses. Horses, however, became a much bigger part of our lives because horses have a quirk to them that cows don't. A cow herd is made up of mothers, sisters, daughters, aunts. They're all related. Horses don't work like that. Wild horse herds are unrelated females. Both babies of both genders get kicked out of the herd between ages 2 and 3, and they have to go find their grown-up herd. And so they had to develop the social skills. They had to develop the social skills to interact with people that they don't know. They had to go make new friends. They had to go new places. Those social skills allowed us to domesticate them a lot easier. Oxen, cows are still, they're dangerous today. I mean, more dangerous than horses are. Cows are not easy pets. I mean, you can do it. People do it all the time. But horses are just, yes, ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry. So when we always see large herds, they're mostly all female?
Yes. Broodmare bands, horses arrange into broodmare bands and bachelor herds. And the bachelor herds, they're all looking for their broodmare band. That's what they're doing. Some of them never leave the bachelor herd because life just doesn't work out that way for them. But yes, most horse herds that you see in the wild are all females with one male. The herd staff. Oh, I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce my buddy Chex. She's a 2-year-old Appaloosa who is staying with us but she's helping keeping me lined out today. She was up here a minute ago, then she's like, okay, I'm bored with you now. I'm gonna go eat my hay. But anyway, so yes, in the wild, you see large herds of unrelated females. They're unrelated to each other. And then they'll have one herd stallion. And then the babies, of course, are about 50-50, males and females. But between 2 and 3 years old, all of those babies are driven out of the birth herd. The females aren't kept, which is very unusual. And And so the young females have to go out from their mother, their siblings, and so on. They have to go find their new grown-up herd. And that young female horse has to convince the lead mare of her new herd that she should be taken in. She should be allowed into the herd. She should be allowed to run with them. And this affects all horse training, all of it. When we train horses, what we're trying to do is take the role of that lead mare. I'm your problem solver. I'm in charge. You do what I say because I said, because I will lead you to the best grass. I will lead you to the best water. That's the horsey social contract. And there is one. Horses don't put up with bullies. They don't. If there's a mare who's just picking on the other horses in the herd for no reason, they didn't do anything, they didn't challenge her, they didn't try to push her off of something, she's just picking on them. The horses will submit for a while, but then they'll gang up and they'll come after her and they'll drive her out. They don't put up with bullies. No, you're not leaving us alone. We have submitted, we have bowed, we have obeyed you, and you're still picking on us. We're done. Get out. But they're very social and they're very socially complex. So this has affected how we interrelate profoundly, because it means that a horse is willing to accept somebody that they're not related to as a leader. Cows, it's a lot harder. Most herbivores, it's a lot harder. They'll do it. As I said, people have pet cows all the time. I've met a lot of beloved baby 4-H cows. But horses, by their nature, will accept leaders that they're not related to. Hi, Checks. But, so yeah, this is a baby 2-year-old. She is just now in training. And as I said, she is staying with us for a month. And then she'll go to her new owner's home. And she thinks being groomed is awesome. Horses are social first. That's what they do. I'm getting my coffee. Be right back. Oof. Here we go.
And if you can hear me, while they're with you for that 2 months, what are some of the reasons that people want you to keep their horse for that length of time, and what goes on?
Well, in this mare's case, it was a transportation issue. The owner lives in Virginia. The seller lived here in Arkansas. We're purchasing a horse from the Virginia owner. It was easier for us to pick up this mare and keep her for a month and then transport her to her new owner and pick up the horse we bought from her. It was a logistics transportation issue. However, while she's here, she's going to get taught manners, leading manners, how to behave around people, stay out of my space. I can come into your space. I'm inviting you into my space. And she had some problems. She never had her feet picked up. She's 2 years old, never had her feet picked up. Well, we have to clean their feet and we might have to trim them, like trimming your fingernails. And she might at some point have to have shoes on. So horses are large prey animals. They don't like giving you their feet. If you hurt my foot, I can't run away. If I can't run away, I'm gonna die. They're not okay, usually, to start with, just picking their feet up and letting you control their feet. They're not okay. So we have to teach them that you can do this. You can pick up your foot for me. It's okay. Nothing bad's gonna happen. She never got taught that. She's 2 years old and nobody ever taught her that. So I'm working on brushing her legs and handling her feet. And then we're working towards, can I pick this foot up for a second? Okay, put it back down. See, nothing bad happened. Can I pick it up for a little bit longer? Put it down. Nothing bad happened.
I saw a horse and their hoofs were actually curled under. It was the most unbelievable thing I had seen. And I thought it ended up like on the ball. It had its feet turned. And I don't even understand how that could happen. What went on there?
That's a club-footed horse. The deep digital flexor tendon that goes down the entire back of the leg and comes and attaches to the bottom of the bone inside the foot. Oh, I'm putting down my copy. All right, so the bone sits inside the foot like this at the very bottom, and the deep digital flexor tendon attaches on the bottom right here. And under normal circumstances, that tendon attachment's what lets the horse pick their foot up, you know, as part of walking. If that tendon tension is too high, it starts pulling the bone vertical, and then the foot goes with it. And so the horse's angle, the angle of their hoof goes from here to here to here to here, and then that starts happening. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's a bad looking at. We call it a stage 4, stage. And trimming the foot's not going to fix it. I mean, it'll help. I'm sure that curl bit hurts, but that's not going to fix the tendon tension. That's usually if the surgery even works. So, but so anyway.
So what do you like that? Is that a horse that needs to be put down?
That really depends on what the horse is expected to do, how much pain they're in. And horse people should learn to be able to judge how much pain a horse is in. They don't scream. They don't yell. They don't tell you what's wrong. You have to be observant. If the horse can be trimmed properly, thank you, Jax, and made comfortable, then and they're just yard art. They're very expensive pieces of yard art. They're not asked to do anything, and they can stay comfortable. Then you might not put that horse down. However, if they have no quality of life, to me, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If they have no quality of life, put them down. You can't. There was a horse in the Olympics recently who ruptured a ligament during the 3-day eventing. And the horse was fairly young, 6, 7 years old. But those are extreme athletes. I mean, those are very athletic horses, especially 3-day eventers. That's one of the most ones there is. And the horse ruptured a ligament. The decision was made to put the horse down. And the young man who was the horse's rider, who made the call, has gotten an unending amount of hate online, on social media, for this decision. And I hate that for him. I mean, it's awful. Because what his decision was, he talked to the vets, he talked to the veterinarians that were on site, and they said, this horse is we've got a surgery that's got maybe a 70% chance of success. And even if it's a wild success, he's going to be stuck in a stall for a year. How do you explain to a horse that he's stuck in a stall for a year? How do you explain to him how he's in prison? You can't.
Right.
And it did not have a high chance of, it didn't have what we think of as a high chance of working. He might still be in pain at the end of it. He's going to endure an entire year in pain. And so the young man made the decision that for his horse's quality of life, and I hate to say psychological well-being, but that would have tortured him. Tortured him for a year for a hope that maybe after a year's time, he could go out and be in a pasture, and he might still be in pain. It had too high of a chance of failure. So the young man made the decision to put the horse down. I agree with
I want to interject just a sec, Lily. I just want to interject that for people who might not understand what put the horse down means, that means to kill the horse, to kill it in a humane way. And we in the veterinary profession, we call that euthanasia. So you might hear that word, euthanize the animal, or put the animal down. That means that the animal, we are consciously making a decision and we act to end the animal's life.
Usually because to end the animal's suffering.
Yes.
When about euthanasia, it's that this animal is suffering and they're not going to get better, or they have very little chance of getting better, and they'll have no quality of life. They'll live in pain. They're not human. They can't reflect. They're not going to learn anything from their suffering. They can't make a decision. They don't have the kind of agency that we do. I apologize, doctor, but That's just what I'm going to add to it. So that's what that means. But did you have anything else, Doctor?
No. I just wanted to make sure we talk and we feel like everybody knows what we're talking about. But vocabulary is very important. And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands what you're saying, even though everybody understands the words, but they may not understand what they actually mean.
What they mean. I understand. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Get it.
You're welcome.
But yeah, that's, yes, ma'am.
One other thing, which also has to do with our young Bailey that's on the line. Bailey volunteers or has been volunteering at an animal shelter with dogs. How hard would it be for her to take what she's learning from there with dogs into volunteering with horses at a horse ranch or like someplace like what you have, if that's an interest for her?
If that's an interest for her, then there are most dogs are born somewhat, horses aren't.
Somewhat what?
Tame. Dogs exhibit neotenous behavior for longer. Horses don't. Neotenous behavior, baby-like behavior, puppy-like behavior, kitten-like behavior when we're talking about cats. Domesticated dogs and cats, as opposed to wild wolves and big cats, have been bred for 25,000 years to be our friends and companions. And they act like it. Horses, having only been domesticated 5,000 years ago, are born wild, and they are the second quickest animal to go feral, right behind pigs. When they're feral, means to be loosed into the wild and to be able to adapt and act like a wild animal and to survive like a wild animal. Pigs are the quickest animal to go from being domesticated to being feral. Horses are the second quickest. So the body language is very different. I would suggest anyone who wanted to get into horses needs to learn from an experienced horse person. That being said, the hygiene requirements don't really change. I mean, you have to clean up after them. The level of work is what it is. A lot of people aren't prepared for that. You do 6 hours of work to ride 1 hour? Oh, all the time. That's what it is. Moving gently, not looking at the animal, that didn't change. That's still the same thing. Horses actually have more body language in common with cats than with dogs. If a dog lays its ears back, that's usually submission. If a cat or a horse lays its ears back, that's aggression. They're upset. They're aggressing at you. I often joke that horses are giant grass-eating cats. What's in it for me? And a lot of the same body language. What I think of as the gross body language, the big symbols of anger and upset. If a horse is upset, it's going to lash its tail. If a cat's upset, it's going to lash its tail. The play signals are similar. But no, I would encourage Bailey to go out and be at the horse ranch if that's an interest of hers. Absolutely. But keep in mind that you really need a mentor who knows what they're doing and who can give you constant feedback. And they're not dogs.
And how?
What's that?
Oh, go ahead,
Lilly, this is Dr. Vega. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Then would you say, from what I've just heard you say, and this is, I think, important for Bailey and the other students there, that what the important thing for any animal is you have to learn what the normal behavior is for that animal, so that then you can learn how to use those normal behaviors for each animal to train them and tame them and do all of those things. Okay, so that's something, whether we're, when you said horses, and then I like the way you compared horses to cats. And what you really showed is that to work with each species of animal, you have to understand the animal so you know how to approach their behaviors, how to approach them. And I think you just gave a great example of that.
Thank you. But yeah, horses stimulation profile is more like cats. We have positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. Dogs respond well to negative punishment, which means you're taking something away from them. In dog's case, your attention. If the dog acts up, one of the most effective things you can do with a dog is push it away and ignore it. Look away from it. Horses, this doesn't work for crap. They want you to leave them alone. They're like, oh, we're done. Bye. You just did negative reinforcement. Congratulations. You didn't mean to do that. Horses, we use to say negative reinforcement means that taking something away is a reward. Positive reinforcement means doing something is a reward. So positive punishments means you're doing something or push. Negative punishment means you're taking something away. Dogs respond great to negative punishment and positive reinforcement. Horses react great to negative reinforcement, maybe positive reinforcement, and negative punishment doesn't work well on them. You have a hard time taking something away from them that they want. So how we train horses well most of the time is between negative reinforcement. Okay, I'm kicking you. You walk, I stop kicking you. Oh, okay, you wanted me to walk. That's negative reinforcement. You stop doing something, that's the reward. Positive reinforcement. Oh, you're such a good boy. Here, you want a cookie? That's positive reinforcement. Yes, I'm rewarding you. I'm actively rewarding you. Negative punishment with horses doesn't work at all. They don't care. You can't take anything away from them that they want. You take their grain away, they're just going to get mad. They're not going to understand it. Positive punishment on horses works in extremely tiny doses. There's a joke that you can tell all the horses I trained in Arkansas because they all respond to the mom finger. Stop it. Okay, fine, sorry. That's an example of positive punishment. I'm doing something as opposed to taking something away. So every animal has a different reinforcement and punishment profile that works best for them. You can't see her, but my diabetic dog, Patty, she monitors my own blood sugar. She's sitting right here. If I ignore her, it's the end of the world as we know it. She's dying. If I just push her off and ignore her and I won't look at her, oh my God, drama queen starts. If I do that to Jack, she's like, oh, nifty, I'm going to the alfalfa. We'll see you later. She don't care.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important with every animal. Understand the species. First off, what do they respond to? What do they not? Understand the individual. This one loves cookies. I can get her to dance if I have a cookie in my hand. She loves them. I rode a horse on a cattle ranch. He didn't care about treats. He didn't care about food treats. He didn't care about you scratching him. He didn't care about socializing. What is this horse's reward? Bullying cows. He lived to be a cow horse. He wanted to go push cows around. That was his reward in life. If you weren't pushing cows around, he didn't want to talk to you. Thanks. If you were going to go work cattle, oh, he was there. He was all about it. Once you were done, he expected you to put him away and leave him alone. That's who he was. He was a great cow horse. But his reward was pushing cows. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say, can we take some questions or see if there's any questions from those that are on?
I got derailed, but that's okay. It happens all the time. I'm ADHD.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's just sometimes, they won't butt in and be rude like me. So I just wanted to see, are there any questions? And while we're waiting, I just wanted to get right back to Danielle or Youth about how old were you, so that they know about how old were you when you started to work with horses and volunteer over at the horse ranch?
I was a military kid, in Germany. My parents were Air Force. And I have it on excellent authority that somewhere around my first word was horse. And then it was horse. My parents, deeply desiring that I shut up, found me a barn. I started riding when I was 2. A barn in Germany.
Wow.
And they put me at the barn. They put me in a slick, smooth leather English saddle with no stirrups and no reins on this great big kind of horse called a Hanoverian, who's a big German kind of breed of horse. And when I could walk, trot, and lope, canter, like this with my arms out and no stirrups, then I got to have reins and stirrups. And that's how I started riding. And as young as I was, I could still see that arena coming up at my face a bunch of times. I fell off a lot. It was epic. And the instructor was very, very kind and said, "Oh, it's okay. You don't have to get back on if you don't want to." And I want to get back on the horse. And then she smiled and she put me back up on the horse, because what they wanted to do was winnow out those kids who didn't have the drive. That those kids, okay, you thought that horses were flowers and ribbons and sweetie, and find out the reality, which is there's horse poop involved, and they're not always nice, and they're basically 1,000-pound autistic toddlers who will step on you. They will. And all of a sudden, the little girl doesn't like this anymore. They wanted to winnow those kids out as quickly as possible. So like, you don't have to get back on if you don't want to. And when I said, I would get back on the horse, and I had tears coming down, I had sand on the tears. It was epic. I have pictures somewhere. They were like, okay, we can work with this one. And so that's how I started riding.
Are there any questions? Anyone? No?
You can type them if you don't want to, if you're shy and don't want to speak, you can type a question into the chat. Bailey has a question.
Yes. What's Bailey's question?
My question is, so you said you've been riding horses for a long time, but when did you start teaching people how to ride horses or training horses?
I actually started training horses before I started training people. I started training horses when I was about 14, 15. Now, I wasn't training horses from babies. I was training horses that already knew how to ride, but their owner wanted them to learn how to do a specific thing that they didn't already know how to do. I didn't start teaching people. I'm 42 years old now. I started teaching people when I was 30, about that, on a regular basis. That's how long it took. A lot of horse people have an easier time talking to horses than they do to people. And because I started riding when I was so little, it's like dancing. My body does things that I don't think about. I mean, how often do you think about speaking your native language? You don't. Usually it happens. And that, for me, that's how riding is. This is just, I know how to do it. Well, how do you explain that to somebody else? That's not the easiest thing. How do you explain that to the student that's on the horse? So yeah, that's why I started teaching horses to do things when I was a teenager, 14, 15. And I didn't start teaching people to ride until I was about 30. Because it took a long time for me to figure out, how do I verbalize this? How do I communicate it to somebody else? Just because I can tell the horse what to do, that doesn't do my student any good. My student has to learn how to do this. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
That was a good, thank you. I appreciate it.
A great question. Yeah.
Anyone else? But one of the things I was going to mention in my presentation today is that almost all of human history has taken place from the ground to the height that a man can wave a sword on top of a horse. Wars, markets, most of human history has taken place in that layer all over the planet. And the top limit of it is how far up in the air a guy on a horse can wave a sword. That's how much of an impact on our history horses have had. And a lot of people believe that people back in the medieval era were better horse people than we are today. I've got several friends, Dr. Jennifer Jobst in Austin, Texas is one of them, who, excuse me, have gone through both paintings and books that were written at the time to show that's not true, that medieval people had some really silly ideas about horses, that they weren't as good a riders as we are today, that advances occasionally happen, although very, very slowly. I mean, you think they would have been, they lived with them all the time, but I drive a truck every day, and that doesn't mean I know anything about trucks, because I don't. I can change my oil. That's about it. So, no, medieval people didn't always know best about horses. But they did ride them a lot. They used them a lot. Horses were major in terms of warfare. Checks? Really? Hi.
He's back there in the background. You know, Lily, we're coming up on the hour. Well, we always end up going over our 30 minutes. But speaking of medieval, you know, you are involved in like medieval times, and you guys have like a fair or something that you do, or an event every year. And in your part 3, I know that your next time with us, you're going to be riding in the arena. But is it also possible for you to bring something that, or whether it's some of your gear or whatever, and talk about what you do with the medieval events?
Sure. I was going to dress for it. I've got full 1500 Safavid version. It'll be fun.
Gosh, that'll be fantastic.
Oh, good.
Because I might die of a stroke. I'm just saying. But I'll wear it and I'll show. I might take the coat off.
That'll be fabulous. And Dr. Vega asked if you could bring or share anyway some images of some of the things that you talked about today, like the feet and yeah.
I think I have the round.
Or maybe, Lily, would you mind if while you were talking, occasionally we cut away to another screen so that we could show the images of what are happening, like how the different kinds of carts that horses pull, what a clubfoot looks like, you know,
what a travois is, TRAOIS. What is that?
Yes. Yeah.
I tried to describe it. That doesn't mean I'm good at it.
Yes.
No, that'd be fine. That'd be fine. I'm not proud. Please give them a break. But anyway, but yes, no, I was planning on next time being in my persona. In what we do, you have to create a persona that guides your research and so on. My persona is a late 1500s Safavid Persian Jew from the city of Isfahan. So
and that's an actual,
and my what's that
city from history? And that is an actual city from history.
Yes, Isfahan still exists today. It's in Persian it's called half the world, because if you used Iran as a dartboard and you win, you'd hit Isfahan. It's like right in the middle, and it was right on the middle of a whole bunch of trade routes. So hey, Benny's, I get an excuse to research silk and velvet and jacquard and stuff. Awesome. So, and Persian Jewry is a very long, deep historical thing. My dad's Jewish. My mother's French Catholic from New Orleans, but my dad's Jewish. So it was a really personal interest for me, delving into my family history. So that's why I created that persona. So,
Well then,
so
Lily, maybe prior to
yeah,
your next with us, I'll talk to you and I will, like, from the name of your city that you are speaking of and that kind of thing, we can send to the participants for them to maybe look up a little history
yeah,
prior to,
yeah.
and and give them some little bit of exercises that they can learn a little bit more before you come on, which
I know
will
there's a panoramic shot online. I've seen it, of the central plaza of Isfahan, where you can take your camera, and the way the program's set up is you can go 360 around the main central plaza of Isfahan, and you can see architectural wonders dating back to the 1200s or earlier. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful shot. And it's a beautiful city. I mean, it is. So yeah, that'd be great. There's plenty of resources out there about it.
are there any other points that you want to cover before we close today? Since we're a little past our time, I always get caught up in what you're saying.
I got sidetracked. I feel so bad. I do. What I wanted to emphasize today is that it's rare to find an animal that has captured so much of our imagination, that has been so helpful to us in terms of economics, in terms of warfare, in terms of really, Pistol? Really? Sorry, Pistol just knocked over. In terms of just involvement with our society. And I think that without horses, our society would look incredibly different today. They were originally called horseless carriages. That's what cars were originally called. That's how much impact horses have had on us. So that's what I'll talk about today. That's okay. I'll do it next time.
May I ask a question before we close?
Go by me.
You were talking about the relationship between horses and humans, and I know that horses can be used as therapy for humans, and I just wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that, because you talked about how the horse has this social skill that allows it to survive in the wild, and that's what helps horses relate to humans. So can you talk about using horses for therapy?
Sure. Short version. Okay, I'm an autistic adult myself. I am. I have higher functioning autism. And I'm also a certified therapeutic riding instructor through Path International. I let it lapse. Let's not be dishonest here, but I did that and I did it for a long time. Speaking as an autistic person myself, horses make more sense to me than humans do a lot of the time. In both cases, with horses and with humans, my brain has to consciously translate the body language. Okay. My form of autism, one of my symptoms is I miss people's facial expressions. I just do. I miss little social cue subtext. Horses don't expect me to get it right. I don't get hit with what's wrong with you. Horses are just like, okay, I'll say it louder then. Humans, some people with autism have social anxiety because their fellow humans are like, well, didn't you catch that? What's wrong with you? Horses don't do that to you. They'll just say it louder. They're nonverbal. They're very spatial. To be around them, you have to be now. You can't be worried about what happened this morning. You can't be worried about what's going to happen. You got to banish your exam from your mind. You have to be now, and you have to develop emotional regulation. The rule with horses is only one of you gets to freak out at a time, and it's never your turn because you're the central person. So a lot of my therapy students had to work on their emotional regulation because they will react. If you're just tense, if you're just, and you think you're hiding it, you're lying. Horses know. They know. If you're scared, they know. If you're happy and relaxed, they know, and they will mirror you back to you. This has helped a lot of my therapy students in terms of self-awareness, because the horse is mirroring their emotional state back to them. Why is he so tense? Because you are. Why is he so grumpy? Because you are. And in terms of physical therapy, there is no machine in existence that works as well as a horse to imitate a human walk. So one of the things we used to do with kids who were mobility impaired was put them on a horse, and they get the core workout of walking when they can't actually walk. But that horse will make the pelvis do the core workout. They're useful in therapy in so many ways. Kids, people who need therapy often get a sense of empowerment. Hey, I can tell this 1,000-pound thing what to do, and it does it. Where in their day-to-day lives, they may not have had that kind of agency. They may not have felt that kind of empowerment. So also after a 20-minute horse ride for 48 hours, neurotransmitters go through the roof, and they stay up. My son has autism that's more obviously symptomatic than mine. He's 2 standard deviations down in speech. He started horseback speech therapy on horseback when he was 4 years old. And in 2 weeks, he went from 2-word phrases to 7-word phrases. We went from drink please to can I have a drink of water please? In 2 weeks, doing speech therapy on horseback. And he'd been in speech therapy prior to that for about a year without the horse. And so it's really amazing the kind of effects they have.
Can you explain that a little bit? Just from him riding the horse, he started speaking more, or while he was riding the horse, you were working with him with words? How did that happen?
While he was riding the horse, his speech therapist was walking with him, and he was having his speech therapy session while they were on horseback. And in life overall, that's how much his verbalization jumped. He rode once a week. And his verbalization jumped to that level after 2 weeks of doing it. Their focus is better. I mean, serotonin, norepinephrine, all those brain chemicals, all those neurochemicals skyrocket for 48 hours. Riding affects the balance system. It's the system that lets you balance, called the vestibular system. It stimulates that and makes somebody feel more grounded. It also stimulates the proprioception, which is the awareness of your body in space. People with various disabilities have problems with their vestibular or their proprioception system, and the movement of the horse riding stimulates and resets those systems. So it's just incredible the amount of effect they have in a therapeutic sense.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Right. Are there any other questions for Lilly before we come to the close? I see we've got Tiffany that's come on. Leah Torrey is there also. Thank you, Danielle, for your great question. Dr. Danielle Corbin, she's wonderful, and she's doing some amazing things with her 6th grade students, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Dr. Vega, thank you for being on. And of course, my counterpart, Dr. Monique Wells. We all are so appreciative of you, Lilly, and we look forward to next week. We're excited about what you've shared with us today.
2 weeks, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes. Is that the 4th? What is our next date?
It's the 11th.
No, 11th, yeah.
September.
Please
And
cool down.
And for everyone, it's a bi-weekly. So when I screw up in saying our dates, our sessions are bi-weekly. And we hope that you share with others. Also, when you get the recording, please, please, please share with others. Share it on your Facebook if you can, because a lot of times young people will have this interest, but it just takes them to sit and hear it. And then it draws them in and we can start involving more. And so if there's anything else, go ahead, Lilly.
I've got a lesson who came and he's going with another instructor, but he needed to go get a helmet.
All righty. Well, Lily,
But
again, thank you again, and we're looking forward to you being with us in 2 weeks.
yes, ma'am.
Dr. Wells, is there anything?
Can we just have Tiffany say where she is calling in from? I don't know if we've seen Tiffany before.
It's dusty out here.
Oh, Tiffany, can you come off mute or type into the chat where you're calling from?
And while we're waiting on Tiffany, Danielle, Bailey, I love your background, how it's you're focused, but
It's
the back of
blurred.
yours blurred. I like that. How are you doing that?
So at the bottom of your screen on the left, it says stop video and mute. There's a little arrow on the top of stop video, and you click that, and then it says select a camera, and you click choose virtual background, and then it takes you to all of the ones that it has available.
Okay. I like that because it focuses right in on you and that vibrant blouse you have on. But I'm thinking that's a good feature there. So
I still can't program my bees. I don't use them anymore.
Tiffany has left us. Tiffany has left us.
Oh, okay. Again, Lily, I thank you so much. And Dr. Wells, what are you saying?
I was just saying that Tiffany has left us, so we can go ahead and close out. And I want to thank Lily again, and I want to thank everybody who contributed questions and comments. And I'm just so excited that we're going to have Lily again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
And you guys, we've already got a few more guests that lined up for the shows following Lily. So stay tuned for our updates. And which Monique Jeremiah may be one of them, right? That was on with us last week.
Yeah.
And so we're excited about the other guests that are coming in addition to the amazing Lilly Ice, our horse expert. And again, Lily, thank you. And for you and your four-leg friends for being with us today.
Yeah.
And we look forward to you in 2 weeks coming on.
Checks for supervision.
Okay. And thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the weekend and talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.